You don't have to find meaning, you have to give meaning. So when you give meaning, you find the purpose towards your life. And when you are rolling that boulder up ना कि God ने तो punish करा है, तो उसी का ही null and void हो जाता है, because punishment is supposed to be a bad feeling. But when you give meaning to it, it becomes your purpose. It becomes beautiful, and it is not punishment anymore.
I have heard the story. I have narrated a bit of the story, but I never saw it in this light. I guess you have given a very, very different meaning to it together. That falling down can be a moment of consciousness, can be a moment of reflection, and can be a moment that can make you powerful in the next round. Guys, welcome to the We Transform Show, a show where we call real life transformers and have candid conversations with them to understand their life, their journey, and their story. Because we believe that we all can transform. There is no right time for transformation and the changes. We all can design and craft a life which is relevant for us, which matters, and which is important for us. Today, our guest is Gurleen Barua. Gurleen is a very familiar name in the learning and development community and the HR community. She adds a lot of value through LinkedIn and different platforms to the audience. Gurleen has a rough start in the beginning of her life. She had quite a roller coaster to face, but she chose to fight back. She chose to stand for what she felt is right, and she bounced back whenever she fell down. Gurleen has a story that is very, very inspiring. We will do a deep dive in her story today, and I'm sure there is a lot to learn from Gurleen today. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gurleen Barua. Hey, Gurleen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Alok. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on your show.
I'm delighted, Gurleen, that we found time together to do this show today. And I was really waiting for you to join me on this show because I keep watching you on LinkedIn. And I tell you something guys, I must tell you something very, very interesting. Gurleen, you are one of the reasons I got active on LinkedIn, and you would not believe it is true. I'm on LinkedIn from 12 years. I guess my account started in 2008 or something. But like many other people, it was just there. It's like a resume on the internet. But I was never active. It's just one day one of my friends showed me that the work you do, you should speak more on LinkedIn and look at some of the people who are really doing good on LinkedIn. And look at this lady called Gurleen, and look at her profile and look at the communications. I said, wow. I sent you a friend request right then and there. I guess we connected a week later, and I was watching you, and that's how I actually became more active, and I saw some very, very positive results after that. So that's Gurleen, but I really need to know more about you, and we really need to know more about the story of Gurleen Barua. So let me start with this question. What was your early journey? How did your journey started?
Very difficult question because I need to think about it. I was born in Port Blair, Andamans, into a Sikh family. And I'm the eldest of 3 siblings. I did my schooling in Delhi and Faridabad. And as far as childhood is concerned, I did not have a typical childhood. My parents never got along. There used to be, constant fighting and a lot of negativity at the house. My dad, who unfortunately recently passed away this year, was suffering from alcoholism from many years. He had also had relapse a couple of times, and he finally found solace in Alcoholic Anonymous, which is a community, well-known community.
Okay.
And Alok, believe you me, for children, making sense of all this is very difficult. You know, for me as a child, I thought that's how people are. I had no idea that this is not normal.
Yes.
And if I were to share a few instances why I felt that this was normal and not normal at the same time, I vividly remember that one time when I was in probably class 7 or 8, 2 or 3 of us students were asked to leave the classroom because our parents had not deposited our fees. Now for my parents, it wasn't because we did not have money, but I feel when 2 people do not get along and constantly fight, they kind of use various defense mechanisms to soothe themselves. So maybe in my case, my folks refused to take responsibility and would kind of displace their anger, or let's say their unlived lives on us. And I don't blame them. Like, I'm sure they had their own share of trauma growing up, or maybe not. But anyway, for me, it was really embarrassing, and that was the start of me realizing that something is not right. And from then on, I started having issues with my self-worth, with my self-esteem, because there's a lot of peer pressure, right? And you see a lot of children, taking exotic holidays. They would come back, talk about holidays, but we never had that kind of, atmosphere at the house. And it was so weird that now that I look back, I think I had both scars and a deep desire to grow and change my circumstances.
True.
And I have no idea how I have really managed to deal with all the trauma and catastrophe that came along. But I think I did well. And I remember in my growing years, when I was becoming a teenager, I was probably in class 10 or 11, when I first started a small clothing business in the school for some pocket money.
Amazing.
So that was pretty interesting. And if you want to know more about my business, I can tell you what I used to do in school.
Sure. I would be very curious. In fact, Gurleen, when you were telling me this phase of your life, I must tell you, normally sometimes it happens that when I'm in conversation with my guest, there are a lot of moments where I can relate to. There's something similar happened near me or with me. This is one moment of life, or the phase of life where nobody can say I can really understand, because as a child, every child goes through a unique journey. We all go through a phase which is different for us. Our parents are different, our circumstances are different. So you cannot really empathize with this situation. You can just feel the energy, or maybe the scars which other person has. But I've seen this closely. I can just tell you this. I can really feel the chill when you were talking about your early journey. And I'm curious about what happened in the teenage years after that, how you progressed and what was the transformation.
Yeah. So continuing my, entrepreneurial journey in school, it was a very simple business model. I would go to Sarojini Nagar market and other street markets, and I would buy clothes. Then I would sell them in school, adding a little bit of commission. So I remember I had made about So I remember I had made about $600 selling some t-shirts, and I straight away went to a nice restaurant, ordered myself a nice banana split ice cream dessert.
Wow.
And that was my first, so that was my first taste of success, while quite literally in the sense. Fast forward to my young adulthood, I joined college in the year 2007. I took up psychology course at University of Delhi. And I also worked part-time in college events, weddings, and professional events where, girls would hand over trophies.
As a volunteer.
Yeah, that sort of work. And they would pay me like decent money, like 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees a day or something like that, just for pocket money.
Okay.
And that's when someone from the hospitality industry recommended me to try jobs in aviation industry, as it was booming at that time in 2007, 2008. And I thought of giving it a shot and I applied for the role of an air hostess with Indigo Airlines. And to my surprise, I got through as well with a decent package and many wonderful amenities. And I was all of, I think, 18 or 19, maybe, 19, yes. But the day I got the offer letter, I had this, gut feeling that this is not my purpose. I may make some quick buck, but this is not something I would like to do for the rest of my life. So I did not take that job. I went back to studying and doing other small jobs at the side so that I can have constant, source of income and at least, some pocket money.
Interesting.
As I shared earlier, I was also scarred as a child. I had never integrated my, shadow self. By shadow self, I mean the repressed feelings, the emotions that I had accumulated as a child. And although, as they say, conventional wisdom is that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But I think a more accurate way of saying this would be that the road to hell is made by people who did not listen to their shadows. And and it's a sad irony when some of the kindest people you will ever meet will suffer from depression, anxiety, and repressed anger issues, all because they did not want to be bad people.
Yeah, there is a
And
cost of goodness.
yeah, absolutely. You don't have to be a doormat. You don't have to be so selfless that people take advantage of you. You don't have to be a yes sayer to be accepted and loved, right? And that is what who I was becoming. I didn't want to be a bad person, and I don't know how I developed this weird concept that in order to be accepted and loved, I need to be a people pleaser. And believe you me, it's more common than we think. Many of us learn irrational beliefs that in order to be accepted and loved, we need to be a certain way. For some it is their weight.
In some volumes, we all do that as well. Some accept it, some don't, but that's the reality. That's we all, especially in teenage years, we do that, right? So what was your story, Gurli?
Yeah, and especially now. And for some it's their weight. Some people want to lose weight. For some it is the grades in school, that if I get so and so marks, then I will be accepted, then I will be loved by my parents, then I will be loved by my society. Or when you grow up, you crave for promotions, you crave for that, a better package. And for somebody like me, it was people pleasing. I became a people pleaser. And for many people it is perfectionism, workaholism, substance abuse disorder, addiction to social media, sex, anything. And if we dig deeper and try to look at its core, all we find is a deep scar, a wound, a pain that gets repressed and that later manifests in our behavior and in our actions.
Yes.
So so coming back to me, during my growing years, when I was doing my masters, bachelor's and masters, I also had a downfall.
Okay.
I, like my dad, I also suffered from substance abuse.
All right.
I will not get into the details at what kind of drugs I used to do, but it was almost very bad.
Yeah, and I would not dig deeper as well, because there are phases which you which happen to people, to us, and we remember them. They don't go out of the system very quickly, or they take their own time sometimes. But yes, it happens.
Yeah.
Phases
so I used to take the substance, and Alok, because substance in any form, what does it do? It numbs the pain, right? It's the quick fix. When you are scarred, when there is suffering, when there is pain, you want to get rid of it, right? And these are some of the bad coping mechanisms, because they are quick. Online shopping is quick, sex is quick, smoking a joint is quick, taking cocaine is quick. And because of these bad coping mechanisms, and along with that, it generates a lot of stress and depression. And because of that, I also suffered from alopecia areata, which is a autoimmune disease, and it's mostly caused by stress. So I was losing my hair. In fact, I was getting coin-sized, bald patches in my head.
Oh my God.
And and I had also visited a lot of doctors, and my reports were normal, my tests were normal, everything was normal. They could not really figure out that what was wrong. And I had also put on a lot of weight, because again, to numb down my pain, I would eat junk food and carbonated drinks, and I would have tons of beer, and so this is all cause of stress, and it kind of manifests in your body then, because body and pain are related.
It has a toll, complete toll on yourself.
Yeah. Thanks. So now I have realized that these were just, coping mechanisms, bad coping mechanisms to deal with hidden trauma. And with time and self-awareness, I have learned that there is not anything virtuous in avoiding anger or taking decisions for oneself or selfishness or anything which we deem negative कि ये तो negative है, ये तो मतलब if you are thinking about yourself then you are selfish. No, prioritizing self is not selfish. And I had to understand it because I was a people pleaser. I used to think that if I think about myself, if I prioritize myself, I'd be a selfish person. But that's not true.
Yes.
You know, real virtue
that's where the whole seed of self-love is. It sprouts from that, when you understand that you don't need to be a people pleaser, or you have to love yourself, and that's where it sprouts from. In fact, I did a whole episode on self-love with a lady called Shanti some weeks back, and her life depended upon it. She was alive because of this self-love. It's very, very important to realize this.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I watched that episode, and such an incredible journey, and hats off to Shanti. I mean, the way she has managed and come out of that trauma is incredible.
Incredible, right? So I was like asking that, there was a phase, I totally understand that, where you used what was available to you, what you had access to, kind of soothe your scars, to, overcome the pain for a little while. But what pulled you out of it, Gurleen? What was that strength or power that pulled you out? How you became now a very, very positive person, and you're inspiring so many people. So what pulled you out of that situation?
That was also difficult, and I realized that real virtue is integrating all these into a coherent and, honest value system, so that you can use them in the ways you deem worthy. So only recently, from the past 2-3 years, I am working on myself. I'm actually trying to get in touch with my shadows. I'm addressing those shadows. I'm feeling those shadows. I'm accepting my other side of personality, and then hopefully I will also integrate it as the time goes. But it was very difficult, when my change phase had just started, was going on. I was spiritually bypassing. By spiritually bypassing, I mean I would read spiritual texts, and I would actually numb down my pain even more by telling myself that life is beautiful, there is silver lining to everything. I should be a more positive person, I have the choice. But I was kidding myself. I was using I call
it the myth of motivation. This whole myth of motivation is exactly this. Yes,
exactly. So you don't have to numb, you do not have to repress your pain and use spirituality as a defense mechanism, because that is not really helping you out. That is causing more harm than good. And so therapy is helping me out. So I'm taking therapy, and I recommend everybody who's going through such emotions to consult an expert. You will see a lot of people, on LinkedIn and other social media networks saying that, okay, if you feel depressed, if you feel anxious, come talk to me, call me. But I think a professional is more important, because a lot of people will give you, spiritual ज्ञान कि अच्छा choice है आपके पास, आप ये कर सकते हो, आप वो कर सकते हो.
But it is so difficult to understand it like a therapist. And I must tell a secret right now. People who know me, my friends, my family members, would never ever believe that I would have ever gone for therapy, because I don't come across as that person to many people. I normally am pretty jolly, and I always do the positive side of things and all. And life has been very, very kind in many places. But it happened to me. There was a phase when I was stressed, deeply stressed. I was not even able to understand what is my future after a week, and I was not clear about it. I had a lot of confusion around me. And one of my very close friends, she was my colleague, said that, I have been through similar, not exactly the same situation, and I saw a therapist and really helped. I was so resistant to go. It took me 3 weeks to make that call. In fact, when I called a known therapist, I just got her by Practo, and there was good review, and in Gurgaon only. And after I spoke to her, and we had an appointment. I canceled that. I was just not gathering up enough that I am going to open up to a stranger, absolute stranger. So for me, that was my personal resistance, my personal problem. But when I went to through just 2 sessions, things opened up. I got clarity in such a way. And I guess in the whole session, I was the guy who was talking for almost 80% of the times. I would just speak. She was just asking 2 questions. I opened it and she was listening. And it gives you so much clarity. And I, it was interesting that I got everything which was going through was also connected to something in my childhood, which I was just not aware. I wanted to prove a point which was not important at all. And that was really hypnotic. And one thing I really wanted to know from you, Gurleen, because I keep reading your post on spirituality and religion. I've been fairly confused in the religion side of it. I like to believe many things, and I do, honestly, but there are many questions which I have which nobody answers. If I ask those questions, I become, the not so good guy. So, and I've been through Vipassana. I've been seen that side of spirituality. I deeply connect to that as well. But somewhere for me, what's the difference between religion and spirituality has always been a question. So I thought let me ask you this.
Yeah. Same here, because this is also one of my favorite topics. In fact, when I was doing my master's, this was one of my thesis topic as well. Difference between religion and spirituality.
Wow,
and how
I'm
they
asking
are
the right person today.
Yeah. Yeah. So, where to start from? Okay. So religion, religion has done some good, definitely. I don't think that. I mean, it's not all bad. A lot of morality of humanity, of art, of again the ability to make people trust one another and cooperate is due to the various religions. But they've also done a tremendous amount of harm, and certainly not all religions are the same in terms of amount of good and the amount of harm that they have done. In the end, morality is about reducing suffering in the world. I mean, that's how I look at morality. And I think you don't need to believe in this god or that god in order to act morally. You know, you need to have deep appreciation of suffering, I think. I do think that we need spirituality as against religion in all times, in all cases. But for me, spirituality and religion are totally different things. They're almost the opposite of one another. You know, spirituality is about questions, and religion is about answers.
Now I completely connect why I'm not getting answers, because I had questions, and yeah. Yes, please.
So spirituality is when you have this big question like, what is consciousness, or what is the meaning of life? Who am I? What am I good at? What is my purpose of life? And you go on a quest to find out that answer to that question, and you have the courage, the willingness to go wherever this question takes you, because it's very important to you. And like I said, religion is about answers. It's when somebody comes and says, this is the answer, you must believe that. If not, you will burn in hell, or we will burn you. And this invites the antithesis of spirituality.
And it is there in every religion, Gurleen. And I've been so curious that I've spent time reading a bit of Quran, a bit of Bible. I've read Bhagavad Gita twice, and I respect all of them. But I always don't agree to that side of it, that if you have not done this, that would happen to you. Always, this is a theory, and I think it's in every religion. If you don't follow this, something bad will happen to you. I think it was initially made so that people follow, and then there is some bit of amount of fear which builds up so that people become religious. But I guess it's highly misused. It's highly misused by different religious practitioners, I must say.
Yeah, absolutely. And religion क्या होता है कि बस एक ही religion है जो अच्छा होता है, जो कि मेरा religion है.
Yeah, always.
Hindu will say that, oh, my religion is better than Islam. Islam will say, no, my religion is the best. Judaism will say, oh, no, ये तो Christians तो ऐसे ही बोल रहे हैं. Judaism is the truth.
Correct, correct.
So yeah, there is only one religion which is right and which is mine. So anyway, so yeah, coming back to spirituality, I think in the current times, in the 21st century, we probably need spirituality more than ever before, because a lot of spiritual questions and philosophical questions are suddenly becoming practical questions, and things like questions about free will. I'm sure you follow me on LinkedIn. I talk a lot about free will. So questions about free will, about what is the meaning of humanity, what does it mean to be human, which people like philosophers and psychologists argue about for thousands of years, but they had very little immediate implications or practicality. Suddenly now it has become a question for engineers, because we are able, or soon we will be able to start re-engineering humans, because of AI and machine learning and all of we have human like we have human like robots. So now you have to think about consciousness as well. Spirituality all of a sudden has become a practical school of thought. So a question like what does it mean, what does humanity mean, or what is the essence of human being, it moves from realm of abstract philosophy to the realm of engineering. And this is why we need to engage with these kind of questions for more, and even corporations like Google and Facebook and Amazon and so forth. I think they really need philosophers today, and they really need experts on spirituality to understand what is going on.
Yeah, they have such a profound impact on humans. Look at the reach they have. I guess that's a tremendous idea. I think they should do that. Very true.
Yeah. And our religion, on the other hand, I think it has done whatever good or bad it could have done for humanity, and now it's losing more and more of its power. It's really overrated now.
Yeah.
It's still very important for people's identity, but most of its traditional roles, I mean, if you look at religion in the past, religion used to determine agriculture and medicine. कि वो दवा लगा लो, या एग्रीकल्चर में यूज होता था रिलीजन, and back in the day, if you used to be sick, you would go to priests. If there is no rain, you would go to the temple and pray. And now all these things have been taken over by science and technology and engineers and doctors, and what is left is really this collective identities of human groups. मुझे तो वही दिखाई देता है आजकल रिलीजन में. It's a way of community, it's a way of bonding with people. Or
I guess it's going back in times, if you read this book Sapiens, and it talks about the whole evolution of how the tribes were there and how our tribe survived because they killed the others, because it was all, they were the guys who were in community. I guess we're going back to this, this is, we are fighting on color, we are fighting on religion, we are fighting on everything. So it's my community which survives, my God who is better than yours. And that's what is prevailing throughout the world. So Gurleen, I can see that you have been very, very constant on LinkedIn. You keep providing value, and you're seen everywhere. I think I see you in podcasts, in different interviews, in different seminars. How come LinkedIn, the journey became so special and so big for you?
I don't know. I've never planned this, I've always liked LinkedIn. Right from 2013 or 14, I've been active on LinkedIn. And it is only recently that all of a sudden LinkedIn has become like the go-to place to connect and network and, exchange of business. But it has always been a platform for me where I can express my thoughts, my ideas about business, my ideas about what is happening in the world today, what I predict for tomorrow, what are my insights, and people have liked it. That's it. I mean, it is not a planned, strategic move, really.
Okay, it's just you're. I guess I can call you a veteran. Then you were already doing it, and I guess post COVID, the whole world sprouted up, very active on LinkedIn, and I guess that's how you were already there.
Yeah.
So great. So Gurleen, what are some of the things you're working on now? How are you planning to kind of serve the community?
Sure. So, Alok, I have about 7 and 8 years of experience in human capital consulting, and I've worked with
Mm-hmm.
both consulting companies as well as Fortune 500 companies and corporates.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is again not a strategic move, but I thought this lockdown has given me a lot of time to reflect even more. मैं वैसे भी reflective person हूँ, and now because I have time, I'm reflecting even more. So I was thinking that why don't I start of my own, and there are I mean, obviously I will not take names of the companies, but there were times when I had lots of ideas and I wanted to implement those, but because of those constraints, corporate constraints, I was not able to. And I was thinking that, okay, again, I'll go back a little bit because I need to tell you in detail that where did this really start. So, like, at the moment, I'm really drawn towards existentialism and depth psychology, and currently I'm thinking a lot about birth and death as well, because like I told you, my dad recently passed away, and it's the first death in the family, and it has made me realize that between birth and death, that time frame between birth and death is the
Mm-hmm.
only time we have on this planet, on earth.
Yes.
And of course, as a family, we are remembering my dad in prayers and family meetings, but my children and further their children are not going to remember who he was.
Hmm.
And coming to think of it, I don't want to be sounding depressing or anything, but that is the truth about life. All of us are just limited editions with a shelf life of about 60 to 70 years on average.
Yes.
And someday we all will be forgotten.
Correct.
Birth is the beginning, death is the ending. I don't know where I have come from before birth, and I
Hmm.
don't even know where I'm going to go after I die.
So
So
true.
I was thinking that if death is the ultimate reality, do we all commit suicide and end the suffering? you know
Hmm.
that's where existential belief by Albert Camus comes in, and he says, can I quote
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
why not? Please.
from the book? Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is a book by Albert Camus. This is an essay. It's called The Myth of Sisyphus. And
Okay.
Albert Camus says, he says, this is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide.
Okay.
Life is absurd and it does not inherently have any meaning. So if you look at animals, unka kuch meaning nahi hai, they're just there. We
Yes.
are also just there. So if we try and find meaning in life, we will
Mm-hmm.
never find it because it does not exist.
Yeah.
These are self-made, these are man-made concepts. So
References.
without taking a lot of time, I want to tell you about the myth of Sisyphus, this essay that I'm reading at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So Sisyphus was the cunning king of Greek mythology, who was
Okay.
punished by the gods for his rebellious nature, and for all eternity he was punished to roll a rock up a steep mountain,
Mm-hmm.
only to have it roll back down to the bottom
Yeah.
when he reaches the top.
Mm-hmm.
He would then go back down to the plain and start rolling it up all over again. So वो constantly चलता रहता है. You
Correct.
may have seen that picture of the mountain and the guy
Yeah.
is like rolling the boulder up and it is coming
I
down,
do. I
going
read
up,
about it
coming down.
because I used this example in one of my workshops where
Okay.
it's called a specific condition. It's about
Okay.
people lead and the leaders and managers who don't acknowledge hard work of their employees and what is the negative
Hmm.
impact that happens to them. So
Hmm.
yeah, we
Hmm.
use a couple of examples like this as well,
Yeah.
and I've read about it. It's very, very, very profound. He
Yeah.
was cursed till eternity that he will always keep
Yes.
doing that.
Yes.
Right. True.
Yes. Yes. And if we look at it from a practical point of view, it is during that return, that pause, that Sisyphus interests me. I see a man falling from the top, and those few moments or hours or days when he's falling without knowing what's the end, that
Mm.
hour or time frame, that breathing space is the hour of consciousness. And at each of those moments when he leaves the heights and gradually sinks towards the layers of gods, he is superior to his fate and he is stronger than his rock. you know
Mm.
and this Sisyphus punishment is like representative of human condition. If we begin rolling our boulder up a steep every Monday morning, and on Friday evenings we reach the summit, the boulder roll backs down within moments, but we have the weekend to reflect as we are walking back down. And
Wow.
also, yeah, and it is just that most of us rather find comfort in distractions like TV and vacations and holidays and family time, etc. And the last thing we want to think about is Monday morning and the task of pushing that heavy rock uphill lying before
Again.
us without any certainty, and you can't escape from it, right? So what can you do? You can choose, although it's not perceived as a choice by most, to continue to be a slave to your rock, or you can choose to look at your struggle from a different perspective, in which you accept the absurdity of life and the fact that struggle is always going to be a part of it. And thus you become the master of that rock. So suddenly, now if you change the narrative, suddenly it's not you pushing that boulder uphill, it's the boulder pushing you. So now
Interesting.
that you have given, you don't have to, again, I'm reiterating, you don't have to find meaning, you have to give meaning. So when you give meaning, you find the purpose towards your life. And when you are rolling that boulder up ना, कि God ने तो punish करा है, तो उसी का ही null and void हो जाता है, because punishment is supposed to be a bad feeling. But when you give meaning to it, it becomes your purpose. It becomes beautiful, and it is not punishment anymore.
I have heard the story. I have narrated a bit of the story, but I never saw it in this light. I guess you have given a very, very different meaning to it together. That falling down can be a moment of consciousness, can be a moment of reflection, and can be a moment that can make you powerful in the next round. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming back to your question about LinkedIn and what I'm doing right now. So for me, at this stage of my life, I'm trying to reinvent my boulder. I'm trying to reinvent my struggle. And yes, I want to struggle, but I want to struggle it my own way. Which is why which is why I've come up with this company. It's called That Culture Thing. And through my work, I'll try to make organizations irresistible places where people can start their days feeling excited and can end their days feeling accomplished. So that's the mission for now.
Wonderful. So the name again, the company's name is
That Culture Thing.
That
That Culture
Culture.
Thing.
Yes, yes, that's very nice. That's very, very interesting. Difficult to
Yeah.
forget kind of name. So you have a website and everything in place?
Yes, I do. And
Wonderful.
I'm soon
So
going to launch it maybe in a week's time or so.
wonderful. And do share the links with me, and I'll also try to add your details in the description sections that people can reach out to you. You have more followers because of this. I have one last question which I really want to ask. I feel with this conversation, Gurleen, that you have kind of identified the purpose of life. Though I believe in the philosophy that purpose is dynamic, it keeps changing with our life as well. When you were a kid, probably the purpose was different and then it changes. But yeah, at a point in life, people really kind of identify that this is what I'm going to die with. And if you have reached that stage and you've seen that purpose, if you can give some nuggets of knowledge to the listeners how to identify purpose, how to go behind it, because you're a psychology student, I'm sure you can add your a piece of advice here.
So I'll just say equanimity is important. I think I'll share a small example. So one day I made myself a bowl of porridge and a mug of coffee, and I headed towards my home office space where I've set up this working area. Preoccupied with work, I tipped and spilled everything.
Okay.
So at 10:58, I was excited about a great new idea. At 10:59, I was mopping up a mess.
Okay. Yeah.
So now this is a trivial example, but it's also the way life is. You walk through one door and a bucket of water falls on your head. You walk through another and someone doubles your salary. And of course, most times when you walk through one door, you simply enter another door or another room.
Yeah.
So once you understand this, you end up with only two logical strategies. One, when you fail, act as though success is following close behind, you know. So don't give up, don't give in to self-pity, don't be a victim, don't accept that your fate is bleak or hopeless. Just dig in and work your way towards the light. Second, when you succeed, act as though failure is following close behind. You know, be as nice, be as humble to people as when you were working your way up from the bottom.
Right.
So be very cautious of your newly earned gains. Don't take it for granted. And a lot of us may believe that we are 100% responsible for our success. That is not true. You know, the people around you are largely responsible for your success, and never ever forget this. And one last tip: when you spill your porridge, have fun cleaning it up.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not have fun instead of crying over it? In fact, I recall a post I saw a few days back about this whole success thing and failure thing is that the thing about bottlenecks is they're always near the top. And the moment the
Yeah,
bottleneck is over, you're up straight in the open. So it's always, there is
absolutely.
the victory is right there when you feel really stuck.
Yeah.
And that's
That
great.
was such a wonderful analogy, Alok.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. I think that's very powerful, Gurleen. And I also learned and I saw a couple of your pictures where you draw beautiful art and it also tells an incredible story. Last thing I really want to know, I want to definitely see some of them and I want you to tell them what they mean and why you do it.
Definitely. Because Alok, now that you know that I'm a very philosophical person, so my drawings are also a bit philosophical. So okay, so this is a challenge which is going on. It is called Inktober Challenge. So for the month of October, so they give you like prompt words every day, and basis that word, you draw anything that you feel like, whatever comes to your mind. So I can show a couple of my drawings. So this is from day 5,
Okay.
and the prompt was blade.
Blade.
So this is more like after effects of blade.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
Interesting.
day 6. This was day 6, and the prompt was rodent.
Okay.
I will not get into the detail because it may cause a lot of
I can see the details
conflict.
right
But
here. Yes, it's
you know
very
what I mean,
visible.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can show you some more. Um, this So the prompt was armor.
Hmm.
So traditionally, armor is something which is steel-like and very solid and rock
Right.
solid. But I think for times now, this is the armor, and
And
I will
I
request
love
everybody.
the all dots. Tells a very, very strong
Yeah,
story. Right.
yeah. And then there was a prompt again, slippery.
Mm-hmm.
So I recreated the good old Freudian slip. So this
Hmm.
is Sigmund Freud, and he just
Okay.
slipped.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
and yeah, and I have lots of them, in fact. Yeah, and this is from day 1, and I have
Mhm.
actually tried to recreate Madhubani art.
Oh
So I had gone
wow,
to,
it's so
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, it's
Amazing.
Madhubani art from Bihar. It's
Okay.
a
Mathli,
Maithili
yes.
art.
Art,
Maithili
right,
art, yes.
right.
Yeah, and there was another prompt, hope. So
Oh,
this is
wow.
the light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I try to depict from this painting.
So incredible. I guess these are very, very powerful ways of representation. I think any kind of art. So I sometimes choose to use poetry for expressions which I have in me. And, sometimes your thoughts find words and they find rhythm and rhyme and they become poems. So I don't, I'm terrible at painting and sketching, but, that's my way of expression. Your way of expression is equally beautiful. I guess it's like very, very deep because as I always feel about paintings and art is that it carries a unique meaning for every person who sees it. And yes, the artist has a story in the mind when you make it, but we all see it in our own ways because we all see the world in a very, very unique way. So when you make an amazing art, you do service to everybody who is watching it. So I'm
That's so
sure.
sweet. That's so kind of you.
Thank you. I think you should put them together at one place, Gurleen, and where your collection can be seen, and that would be an amazing thing to do if you have not done it
Yeah,
yet.
I haven't done it, but yeah, but I post it on Instagram every day. But yes,
Hmm.
that's a good idea. I should put it all together and probably share
Yeah,
it on LinkedIn soon. Yeah.
and also Instagram, even LinkedIn, all have a self life. They disappear after a day. So I would recommend you to put it at a place that people can revisit
Ah,
and
I
see
see.
it that ways.
Got it.
Because
Got it.
otherwise,
Definitely.
last week's Instagram post is over. Nobody knows what it
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
right?
that's
So
true.
yeah, I thought I'll just I'm really impressed by this.
Yeah.
So Gurleen, I guess we have a lot of great learning from you, great inspiration from you. You have transformed multiple times, and I'm sure you will be inspiring a lot of people with your new venture, especially the corporates who will be joining you in this whole cultural journey which you are starting. And my best wishes are for you here. Thank you so much for joining us today, Gurleen.
Thank you so much, Alok. And it was such a pleasure talking to you. I loved this conversation.
Me too, same
Thank
here.
you.
Thanks a lot. See you then. Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
See you.
So, guys, this was Gurleen Barua. I must say, you just don't know what depth a person has gone into before you actually have a conversation. You don't know what a person has gone through till you know their story. Gurleen had an incredible story, and there are so many different moments which can really break a person down. But Gurleen chose to fight back, and this is what makes us powerful. She has taken the side of philosophy and spirituality to build her life, and she has created a life that is working for her. Today, she's setting out to inspire so many others. I would share the links of different social handles of Gurleen in the description below. Do go and follow her. She keeps inspiring people every day. If you have a story that should be told on this podcast, do get in touch with me. My details are given below, and we come back with a new transformer every week. Guys, do like and share this video because there are a lot of people who may need to listen to these inspiring stories. I'll come back with a new transformer next week. Till then, goodbye.